and we're going to do everything that we can to support you. Now, let me talk just a little bit about what it means to really support you, because I think it's important. It's of course important that the Vice President stand up here and say how grateful he is, and I certainly am. I'm grateful to each and every one of you and the people you serve, but it's not just about words, it's about action. And that's one of the things I'm proudest about this administration is that we have actually backed up the pride and the support and the gratitude that we have for all of you with very meaningful action. You heard Ed talk a little bit about the Social Security Fairness Act. Well, one of the reasons why that happened is because the President of the United States, and I believe it was even before the inauguration, the President of the United States made sure that congressional Republicans stayed on top of that legislation, and we worked to get it done. That happened because of presidential leadership. Do you think Joe Biden was making those phone calls, ladies and gentlemen? I just got to say, I don't think so. Sorry, I got a little partisan there. But we owe it to Americans who suffered through exposure to toxic chemicals, especially the first responders who seek to protect others from harm. We owe it to you to actually look after you and to take care of you. In that vein, one of the first pieces of legislation I ever worked on was the Railway Safety Act. And I'll never forget your support in making that act a possibility. We actually got it, by the way, into the most recent transportation package. I'm sure Ed and all of you will use your very able lobbying and persuasion tactics to make sure that that legislation actually becomes law. Because here's the thing. When I met the firefighters who dealt with that terrible train derailment in East Palestine, one of the things that I picked up is, they weren't angry. They weren't mad. That was their job. They went into a very dangerous situation because that was their job and that's what they expect to do. But they were worried about one thing. What might happen with all these toxic chemicals that were in the air? Would they have long-term problems? Would they suffer some consequences? And one of the things that Secretary Kennedy and I worked on is making sure that we are studying the long-term effects of toxic chemical exposure in East Palestine. We appropriated millions of dollars, and trust me, when I was a senator, I worked to get that money from the last administration just to understand the effects of toxic chemical exposure over time. And we didn't have that until this administration came along and Secretary Kennedy made it a priority, because we want you all to know, if God forbid you run into harm's way, what are the consequences going to be to you over the long haul? And importantly, what are the kinds of medical treatments that you're going to need if you're in that situation to make sure that the sacrifice that you make in the line of duty doesn't become more than it has to be? Those are the kinds of tangible steps that we are trying to take. Now, we know that President Kelly and President Trump, we all have our own presidents, my friends. He was a huge proponent, and I'm glad for this, of the Honoring Our Fallen Heroes Act. Now, that was critically important legislation that you all know President Trump signed into law just a few months ago. Now, as Ed can tell you, this law extends legal benefits for firefighters and first responders who pass away from cancers caused by exposure in the line of duty. Now, when one of you becomes ill or, God forbid, loses your life because of cancer that was developed in the line of duty, their families are entitled to federal benefits that they earned. It's a big one. Now, I say they already earned them because we owe it to Americans who suffered through exposure to toxic chemicals, especially the first responders who go into harm's way to protect others from harm. That is what this administration is all about. Making sure that the Social Security system treats you fairly, making sure that you get the benefits, or if God forbid you pass away, your families get the benefits that you deserve, making sure that we take care of the people who take care of us. That is the legacy of the Trump administration when it comes to our firefighters, and that is a legacy that we're going to keep on building on over the next 3 years of President Trump's leadership. Now, I want to close with a very simple point. This is an administration that is fighting first and foremost for working men and women. I talked about that a little bit at the beginning. We're especially fighting for working men and women who serve the public interest, and that's what all of you do. You know, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a United States Marine. Some kids want to be doctors. Other kids want to be teachers. Some want to be astronauts, but it's, as you know, a lot of little kids all across our country, they want to be firefighters. That's a great testament to the work that you do every single day. I guess my point here is that every kid in our country has dreams, and those dreams come in many shapes and sizes. And what I want most of all is for your service and your sacrifice to be rewarded by all of us living in a country where you don't have to be rich or lucky to obtain the American dream. You just got to have a little grit, a little determination, and a lot of hard work. I want all of us, your kids and mine, to live in safe neighborhoods. I want us to send our kids to good schools. I want our families to not have to live paycheck to paycheck. And that's why our administration is fighting for all the policies that we've been fighting for, from the low crime to reversing the inflation of the Biden years, because we want every single person in our community to be able to live a good life. What is the work of all of you, of our firefighters and our EMTs, if it's not to ensure that every kid has an opportunity to live in safety and security? You do your part every single day, and I'm proud of you for it. But that means that we've got to honor your service by doing our part here in Washington, D.C. So let me just say that all of you deserve to live in this great country, and all of us in this administration are proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as we rebuild the United States of America. I want you to be proud in your country, because I know that your country and your president are very, very proud of you, and we're grateful to you. Thanks everybody, and God bless you.
In the factories and the fields.